Here we go. Mike.
We're in progress.
See, that ain't nothing but the
What's
devil.
going on, UTL?
That ain't nothing but the devil, Mike. That the devil don't want you to get on here and give this free game to the people. So that's why all
Right.
these hiccups have to happen, But he
Yep,
alive, and we're gonna get this work in, okay?
that's right. I'm
Gee.
ready.
All right, Mike. Well, let me try to find some sort of professional tone because I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a bit agitated right now. Just a smidgen, okay? Just a smidgen. Ain't nobody
It's just,
yeah, just a smidgen. Ain't nothing trying to work
yeah,
today. All right. I got my notes. Let's get into it. All
let's
right.
get into it. All right.
Happy Friday, and then sound effects in the back. Okay, all right. This is the day we working with, Mike. This is the day we
Yeah,
working with. Yeah. So,
sound effect.
yeah, the sound effects. Okay, everybody know who Frank is. Frank, can y'all see Frank? Yeah, there go Frank. So listen, this is my podcast. Y'all don't like it, you can keep on scrolling past and find somebody else. But this is real raw information. We're coming to you live. Let's get into it. Thank you for joining today. My name is Tamaris. You have run across the hectic day that both Mike and I have been having. But welcome to the channel, UTL Trucking Education Hub. I'm your host, Tamaris. And what we do is we are going over real stories, real experiences, and real truth as it relates to the trucking industry as a whole. So
Yeah,
the goal here is to bring you education. We're going to share some of our life's experiences, how we got to where we are, the ups and the downs, because what we want to do is create a community of resources and information that are truths. And Mike can attest to this, that starting off, there's been so much information when you go to social media platforms, YouTube University, and there's a lot of good information there, and then unfortunately there's a lot of bad information, and seemingly the ones that are putting information out that is bad are the ones that seemingly get the people that invest in them. So
yeah,
when you have an industry full of misinformation, then there's room for catastrophic errors, right? And in
right.
transportation, we have to be as close to zero errors as possible. The reality is no one's perfect, but you want to be as close to it as possible when it comes to compliance, when it comes to operating your business actually as a business and not a side hustle. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into it. But today's guest is Mike, and Mike is going to tell us about his experience in his industry. He
Yeah.
is a is it Sprinter van or is it cargo van? Sprint is cargo vans right now, or did you upgrade
It
only?
pretty much. Well, I guess the jig is up. And we can deep dive into that.
Yes.
Yeah, because this is new. Yeah, that's we're ready. If you want, I can deep dive into. I don't know how you want me to approach the story or anything like that.
Listen,
So
we
I don't know if
going
you
for
where you.
real.
Yeah,
We're going for real and raw, Mike. Come on, we're going for real and raw. I want you to get to
yeah,
first
no, yeah,
tell the world who you are. How did you get into this
sure.
industry? Why did you choose to go into this specific niche of trucking? And then we could just, free fall from there. I don't really believe starting off with a script because I don't want anyone to feel like they have to be robotic. I want you to be real and authentic because we have
Oh yeah,
people that are real and authentic, and these are people that are really trying to make decisions that's going to not only impact themselves but impact their families as well. So,
yeah.
and today, all right, welcome. Thank you all for tuning in today. Today's special guest is going to be Mike. and he is in the cargo sprinter vans niche of transportation. But before we go there, I want to introduce myself. I'm Tamaris, and this is UTL Trucking Education Hub. Here we're going to discuss real stories, real experiences, and real truths about the trucking. So without further ado, I want you to grab a pen and paper, your favorite beverage, get comfortable. Mike is going to bring us some serious knowledge, some serious game. He's going to let us know how that you can contact him if you're needing some consulting. Mike is also going to talk about his podcast as well. And Mike, if you don't mind, just tell us, how did you get into this space? What drove you to trucking, first of all? And then go from there.
What's going on, guys? So my name is Mike. My TikTok name is Cargo Capital, and my podcast name is CargoCast Podcast. I've been in the industry for a total of a little over 3 years now. I'm more so in the courier space than I am in the carrier space. I have a little bit of experience in the carrier space, which is why I want to deep dive even more, as you see my background. So how I got started. So I pretty much got started. I mean, it started off with, like most people, like gig apps. So I started with Postmates. I literally was just whipping it out of my Honda Civic. And it was literally just a side hustle. Like I didn't take it serious at all. And I started stacking different apps. I had Postmates, then I had Instacart. And then all of a sudden, my dad told me about this courier company. He was like, "I'm just trying to, make some extra money, nothing crazy." I'm like, "Well, Dad, what the hell? Why'd you not tell me about this? This can literally help me out." So I signed up with them, and all of a sudden, I noticed my my side hustle money kind of growing a little bit. Like it made a huge difference because I noticed, I guess how much like client base they had, customer base they had, and all of a sudden I looked at my numbers. I'm like, wait a minute, like I can probably quit my full-time job that I have right now. So once Christmas break rolled around, we usually get 2 weeks off. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to put this, to the test. I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks and I'm going to just run it and see how it goes. If I make X amount of dollars, I'm going to spend the next 3 months, save up some money, and I'm going to go in it full time. So lo and behold, I did meet my goal. And I just saved up a couple thousand over the next 3 months. And April 1st, 2023, I put my 2 weeks notice in. So that way I strategically planned this out. So we usually get a spring bonus. So I pretty much just timed it out perfectly where I was like, hey, I went to HR, right? This is funny. I went to HR and I was like, hey, so when exactly will my spring bonus hit my account? She's like, it should be about the end of March. I said, okay, well, this is exactly where I want to put my 2 week notice in then. She was like, what? I was like, yeah, that's the reason why I asked. So that way that spring bonus can just hit my account and it pretty much will put the icing on the cake. I'll have a good cushion and I can quit. So April Fool's Day of 2023 is when I hit the ground running. I had only a few gig apps. I had one courier company under my belt. And after that, me and my dispatcher had built a relationship part-time. And obviously, I'm sure we're going to get into this about dispatching, like, relationships and stuff like that. But me and him were really cool. And I told him, I was like, hey, man, listen, the numbers are going to work for me and I'm going to quit. He's like, okay. He's like, well, I'm going to give you as much work as possible because we really like you. We really like your work ethic. And I was like, great. So he put together, once I quit, he put together like a dedicated lane. Like little by little, I was getting to stop, I think I had about 5-6 stops on my Honda Civic. And I was making a little bit of good money, a few $100s a day. I would say it was like $200 a day, nothing crazy. Mm-hmm. And these gig apps were fillers. Obviously, I was already aware of that. They're pretty much fillers and on top of the routes that I was getting. Right. But as time went on, right, I was using their cargo van because sometimes they would give me on-demand offers like, hey, you want to go from this area to that area, and you just have to park your car, get in our cargo van. I was like, yeah, sure. Now, mind you, here's a downside. The downsides to this is that you would have to put fuel in their van, kind of like a rental car. You got to bring it back on what you left it with. Here's another thing that sucked. You cannot do any runs outside of this courier company. You cannot go outside of that. This is what frustrated me, and I felt like I was boxed in.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you know, one of the first people that I found on YouTube was Mark. And
Okay.
every day, this is why he came on the podcast. Every day I would listen to him, and he would talk about terminology, CPM, cost per mile, RPM, rate per mile. He'd talk about I didn't know what the hell any of this even meant. I was just driving. I was comfortable, and once again we're gonna get into that.
Right.
And he blew my mind away. I'm like, I did not know what this was. This was a little bit before ChatGPT came out. I had Mark. Mark was my ChatGPT pretty much. Right. So
shout out to Mark. Mark is
Mark the mentor. Oh my
Mark
God. Yeah. Like you just said, he is cut and dry. He is not afraid to hold back at all. And that's why I liked him. I was like, I just want to know the truth. What do we got to do here? So he expounded upon the cargo van industry while I was on my dedicated lanes, and timing could not have worked out any better. So, fast forward as I'm learning from Mark, I'm just listening to him as I'm doing my routes, stuff like that. 15 months in my experience, I would say, 15 months into my experience, I remember my dispatcher pulled me aside. I mean, little by little, my routes were getting bought out by different companies. So one stop, hey, we lost the bid on that, stop is gone. Hey, we lost the bid on that, stop is gone. So I realized that about 50 to 60% of my gross revenue is going to be out the window. So at this point, this is important here, is that it was going to be nothing but on demand. It was no longer dedicated lanes. So I already had a couple gig apps by then. I mean, I downloaded probably another 4 or 5 as I was in. So I kind of, in a way, without me realizing it, I already had kind of set myself up. I learned how the on-demand lane works. And this is where Mark kind of came in with on-demand. I was learning a lot from him. Just on different things with cargo vans, startups, stuff like that. So fast forward, I would say, because I was like 18, I was almost 2 years in. That's when I was getting a small van, as you see in my profile pic on TikTok, a small cargo van. Yeah. So I was inspired by the small cargo van. The reason why is because I didn't think I really needed a big full size van. I'm like, I probably don't need it. Right. I could probably make it work, and which I did, which we'll go there too. Right. So the courier company I was with had a full size van and a small van. I learned how to drive the big van because of them. That's why this is easy. So I realized a small van is like a minivan, good gas mileage, whatever. So this is what I did. And today, let's do it. All right. Yeah. So pretty much after my routes got had gotten like bought out, I had to learn pretty much how to adapt. And I feel like that's the biggest thing in business is just learning how to adapt. And pretty much, I should make sure they were letting me out of here. So pretty much the biggest thing is learning how to adapt. And for me, when I had a couple of those gig apps, I was already getting those on-demand offers from the courier already. And pretty much when I was out of my Honda Civic, because I realized how boxed in I was from them already. And because I had to put fuel back in that van. Every time I drove back. So just imagine how much deadheading I was doing. Let's just say I didn't get any offers. Let's say I got a load going to Charlotte and I had to go about 90, 100 miles back. That's 100 miles I had a deadhead back. And that is not, it was not fun. It was definitely not fun because I was,
and how much money that was.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was
Oh,
only
yeah.
3 years ago. So I mean, we had our, our spikes and fuels that, so I mean, I don't
Yeah.
care if it's 10 miles that you have to deadhead. That is just free money that I don't think anyone will ever get used to. So with that being stated, I just wanted to jump in really quick, and I wanted,
Sure.
before we got too far ahead, you've expressed one major factor that I have seen is a standard for everyone in transportation, which is your hustle. You never
Yeah.
gave up. You never came into this space believing or thinking that someone was going to give you anything. You invested your energy and your time, both
Yeah.
of which can never be replaced. And I just wanted to take a moment to just say, how impressive that is for you being such a young person and understand from the rip that no one's going to give you anything. Another factor that you mentioned earlier on is when you transitioned from your 9 to 5, you actually implemented a step. And I think that's a key factor that individuals are missing once they become entrepreneurs or they're trying to jump into the space of being an entrepreneur. Anyone that's going to be successful, you have to calculate the risk factors that go into that decision. And that's something that you exhibited early on when you said, hey, I was working my 9 to 5. I tried the gig on the side. Then when I start seeing that the gig was either meeting or surpassing what my 9 to 5, then you made a conscious decision. But before you made that decision, you had to have known what your numbers were. And I think that's a very big factor in trucking that people don't take into consideration, is knowing what not the number not being what you think you should be getting paid, but what you absolutely have to, and then putting a reasonable top on top of that, right? A cap on top of that, right? Which would be your quote unquote profit margin, right? And you did that. You saw how much you needed to make in order to be sustained. Then you were willing to put in the sacrifice of sitting on X amount of dollars to float you until you got the wheels completely turning. But in the interim, you also included in your plan to test the waters to see what was really going to work for you. So just share really quick before you go on to the next piece of what you were saying. Share, how did you get to that space, that thought process? How did you, and you're fairly young, you're much younger than me, but you're fairly young. How did you get to that space to say, instead of just saying, I'm gonna quit my job today and I'm gonna just go get me a cargo van tomorrow and I'm gonna see what happens? You actually had steps that you took to get in to the position that you're in now.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, and you're asking me basically before just impulsively quitting.
Right.
Like I actually took the time to, okay, I just want to make sure.
Yes.
So I grew up in an entrepreneurial home already.
Okay.
So my dad was hardcore, like just, I guess that's why, like, my dad's pretty, like, just very just straight to the point. Just so, like, whenever I talked to him about it, he actually was pretty impressed with my idea. Like the way I was putting everything together, he was like, if it makes sense, then yeah, but I mean, why not? I mean, it's just like quitting a job. Why would you just quit a job without offsetting it with something else? I mean, that's just common sense, So, I mean, I guess common sense ain't so common. So like, that's, I guess that's why, when you said, I'm like, I guess not everybody thinks that way, but I'm like, I just thought, hey, if I know I can make this certain amount of money every week, then I know it can work. Not every, but I would say a good 70-80% of the time.
Right.
Just to start out with, no plan is supposed to be perfect when you start. It's just supposed to be good enough, and then you refine it as you go along.
I like that. I like that.
that's kind of when I started, that's what I would tell myself probably 3 years ago when you're starting. You do not have to be perfect starting. That is the biggest misconception in any business. I would say the art of perfection is going to lead to what's called analysis paralysis, which is going to cause you not to do anything at all because
Right.
you can have all this knowledge and then it's going to be like, well, do I have enough? Do I know enough? Do I know enough people? Am I signing with companies? It's like you're overthinking the hell out of this. Like, hold on a second,
Right.
you know, just know enough, just have enough,
Yeah,
and then get started if it makes sense. If the math makes sense, go right ahead.
that's
But if the
right.
math doesn't make sense, then yeah, then you're gonna have to take a step back. And I said it earlier, you're gonna have to refine your plan and make it better and make it make sense. So overall, I feel like having a family that was already entrepreneurial, I kind of already had that.
Right.
And you got to understand, when I joined this industry, I was alone. I did not have the community I have now.
Yeah.
For the first, I would say, almost 2 years, I literally did it alone. I would never tell anybody to do it alone. That's my situation.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I would say just having a good enough plan that mathematically makes sense because business is all numbers, it's all math.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I would say those two factors, family and just math, kind of just helped me realize, yeah, it makes sense. Just save up and pull the trigger, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And my hat is off to you. That is
Thank you.
a
Yeah.
very, very intelligent thought process. And um I hope individuals are taking notes in that regard, that it is a profitable industry, no matter what size of your equipment. It is very profitable.
Yeah.
But knowing which lane is going to work best for you and understanding the cost and the risk involved in that process, and then making a conscious decision that you're willing to endure those risk factors. And that leads me into my next segue. What are your thoughts and how are you managing your compliance requirements? Because you have upgraded from the small cargo units and you're now into a Sprinter van, which of course allows you to transport larger items, go a little bit further than the small cargo van that you started off with.
Yeah. So as far as compliance goes, to me, it's just all about being, so, I mean, to me, when you say this, compliance, just in general, hold on a sec. Headphones died. Hear me now, my headphones died.
Yeah.
So are you saying like just from a FMCSA standpoint or just from a general owner operator business standpoint?
Well, both, because they actually should be, interwoven within the two, how you operate in your business as a compliance, and then
Sure.
making sure that they match up with what the requirements are for FMCSA and DOT for your unit to even be on the road.
So for me, I did not incorporate myself probably until this year. One thing about me is I would never advise anybody to do this. This is all lessons I've learned in my journey. Never, ever, 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 ever just come into this industry just being a sole proprietor. Do not do that. And there are various reasons why you should not do that. Various. I started out being a sole proprietor, which, I mean, if you guys don't know what that is, a sole proprietor is somebody that is just literally just on paper, you're just a 1099.
Right.
There's no LLC there.
Yeah.
You're just
No
a
covering.
flat out self-employed, just like an Uber driver, Lyft, like
Right.
just anything like that.
Right.
Your ceiling is going to be very, very limited
Yeah.
if you don't have the LLC. For
Right.
opportunities, I mean, we're talking carriers, we're talking if you want to get on the load boards, if you want to work with brokers, if you want to work with shippers, or my niche, the courier lane, final mile contracts, you're not going to be able to do that. And that's why just having that type of compliance is very important. It makes you scalable. That's one. Honestly, at this point, there's 3 reasons why I incorporated myself. One, to be scalable.
Mhm.
Another one to protect myself
Right.
from if anything happens to, anything happens.
in litigation, my personal belongings will not be taken. It'll be my business.
Right.
And one thing I realized with business, you can always start over. Your
That's right.
personal will be fine. So that's what I realized.
Right.
And to protect your money. And that's all. I mean, that's just general business, is also to protect your money. I read one book. If you guys want to get into business or anything like that, it's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep.
Absolutely loved the book. I loved it a lot. I realized, I think he was the biggest catalyst for why I incorporated myself, because, you know, from those three things: to protect your money, protect yourself, and to make yourself more scalable.
Right.
So LLC aspect of it is what I would encourage anybody to do, is be sure you structure yourself the correct way, depending on where you're going to take your business. And
Correct.
that's going to be depending on the individual.
Right.
So as far as insurance, you know, commercial, you got to have $1 million. I mean, for me, I don't know if this is for every other, because I'm not an expertise in box trucks or semis. I'm just, you know, cargo vans. For me, you know, it's commercial. 1 million general liability, 100,000 cargo is what you got to have. I mean, that's the requirements to have. Once again, the biggest thing to be, you know, the biggest reason why you need to be in compliance, I would say, it's just like this. I'm wearing a seatbelt, right? Do I enjoy wearing the seatbelt? No. I mean, I would rather just drive and just, you know, freelance. But what's going to happen if a cop, you catch him on a bad day, he's going to hand you a $25 ticket. It's no big deal, right?
Right.
No big deal at all. Oh no, there's something deeper than that. Go check your MVR. Guess what? This, not wearing this, goes on your MVR.
Mm-hmm.
Something as minor as not wearing this. I'm making a point here, is that having that commercial insurance, pretty much, just because, I mean, are we going to pay more money? Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My insurance, whenever I got my small cargo van, right, I of course got commercial insurance, because I realized I was going to see what opportunities I could get with that. But when I learned, the premium it skyrocketed up, and my eyes just popped out of my head, and I was paying a lot of money. I don't have the best MVR in the world, but I built a relationship with an agent that, instead of going back 5 years, he only went back 3 years. Made a huge difference.
Oh, wow.
Huge difference. That's why I got such a phenomenal rate. It was Geico. And they're actually fairly new in the commercial, believe it or not. They're not.
Yeah.
I know Progressive is like the number one a lot of people get.
Uh-huh.
Geico actually just, I think maybe a few years ago, they just started. But point being, having the right insurance, once again, is going to make, obviously it's going to, it's going to be a check off for you in this industry, to be able to get on with, carriers, load boards, once again, with brokers.
Yeah.
So that's, once again, it's just to make yourself scalable. It's just to be in general compliance. And it's just for, it kind of gives reassurance to whoever you're working with. Like, hey, they have the right insurance. Our cargo is protected. We're good. That's what they look for. It's all about that. It's all about reassurance. But I can carry it. They're not looking at it that way.
Right.
they're not looking at it that way. They're looking at it as, hey, according to what you have the right insurance. But if I have just regular car insurance and I'm saying, hey, I want to work with you, they're gonna be like, you don't have the right insurance. But you don't have the right insurance.
Right.
But me, they're gonna look at you like everybody else if you don't have the right insurance.
Right.
You're just not gonna. It's all about. Whenever I realize that, it's all about, and you got to look at this from a business standpoint. It's almost like when a boss looks at your resume. Right. When a boss looks at your resume, if you have a clean record, you are a very low to no risk at all, and they're going to absolutely want to hire you.
Yeah.
To me, compliance is basically practicing what you preach.
Right.
That's how I look at that. It's practicing what you preach. So, I'm a great driver. Well, let's go check the data and make sure you are a good driver.
Exactly.
Let's make sure of that. So that basically is how I look at compliance.
Yeah.
Now, with having your authority, which a full authority is your MC and your DOT,
Mhm.
I'm actually going to be getting that.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank
Good.
you. I am going to be getting that. That's why you see me this van right here, my small van. Unfortunately, once again, ceiling. I had to turn down. It's surprising. I actually was able to get on with 3 carriers with my small van. But I cannot even tell you how many loads I had to turn down because I didn't have the right size equipment. Once again, another boxed in situation that I had to get myself out of. But now that I got this van, I once again, when I say the word scalability, this van is going to make me more scalable. A lot of brokers and a lot of shippers, I realized, are not going to work with somebody that have anything smaller than this. They're not going to. And another thing, once again, we talked about compliance. Is you got to have an MC and a DOT, which a DOT is free. MC, that's where it's going to cost money. I'm going to get that, and it's like, oh, well, you don't need that because you have carriers. That's true. That's true. But I'm wanting to scale even more. I want to eventually have my own logistics service where I'm going to have drivers under me eventually. That's one of the reasons why I'm getting it. It's sometimes it's not about, hey, it's going to cost more money. It's sometimes, hey, what are you going to do about this? Because, I'm getting this now because guess what? At MC and a DOT, a lot of brokers and a lot of shippers are not going to look your way for for right now. Based on the current, based on what just happened. I don't know if I'm allowed to address that, the elephant in the room, but before that it was 6 months, and that's minimal. Minimum is 6 months. Sometimes they're not going to look your way for a year. Sometimes it might be more than that. It depends on the broker or the shipper. But you'll find a few of those needle in the haystacks that will work with you. Doesn't matter about the age of your authority. But once again, being in compliance, you got to look at it by what? Scalability.
Right.
Keeping yourself in compliance so that way you build trust with whoever you're working with. That could be carriers, couriers, that can be dispatchers, like independent dispatchers. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
And that to me, that's how I look at it is, what are you looking to do with your business?
Absolutely.
What are you looking, how far are you looking to go with it? Are you going to be an owner operator, or are you going to eventually get out of the seat and eventually maybe dispatch about 1 to 3 drivers?
Absolutely. You made a very good point earlier. You made a very good point earlier when you were stating how in your thought process in making the decision to jump off the ledge and actually create a business. And as a business, having a business plan, you should know where your start point is, your mid-level checkpoint, and your finalization. So where you're going to start, and you understand that's that risk factor that you're taking in consideration. What risks are going to be involved in this venture, right? And then growing, and then midpoint, you're saying, okay, have I grown or am I still doing the exact same thing, right? And then from that midpoint, you should say, I need X amount of more years under my belt before I can now transition into a different role, and or build the business at that point, have been built up to where you're now selling it, right? So I also wanted to make mention and get your feedback and your thoughts about how you said along the way you created relationships with brokers and dispatchers. And I want you to just speak a little bit more, considering, me being in the space of dispatching and teaching dispatching. Individuals don't really understand that this is a relational built industry. You have to have relationships. If you're solely depending on one courier gig or one courier app or a load board, then the possibilities of you actually staying operational for a long period of time is very, very low. It can be done, but it's going to be very, very low. You have to have a combination. And that's what I heard throughout your time of speaking. You have a combination of avenues to find work. It is, if it wasn't a gig app, it was a direct contract. If it's not a good direct contract, then you have brokers and dispatchers that you work with. And being a dispatcher, me personally, and I know people are probably going to frown upon this, but it's business, right? It's not personal. You shouldn't just have one source that you're going to for your work, right? If you sometimes have 2 or 3 different dispatchers or 2 or 3 different brokers, right? One dispatcher, how can I say this so it doesn't be offensive, but it's saturated with a lot of PDF dispatchers. Let me just be clear. Meaning they bought a course for $47 and now you jumped out there and got into Facebook and you have introduced yourself and DM'd the entire Facebook university of Facebook groups. And now you want to dispatch all types of fleets and size, which is unrealistic, right? So what I'm saying is you want to find a qualified dispatcher that specializes in your niche market and can assist you as an admit team member, meaning they should be assisting you with staying abreast with what's going on in the industry specifically for your niche, right? So I say all that to say that this is a business and you shouldn't just have one source of income, right? So just like you have the podcast, you have your actual work that you do consulting on the side. I'm sure you're building your digital products as well. There shouldn't be just one source because you're not just doing one thing. Every time you pull up to a location, you're building a relationship with someone there at the dock. And every time you're out and you're talking to people about what you do, you're building community relationships. So you're doing multiple things within your business model. So relationship is 100% a major factor to your success in this space. So give a few gems, if you don't mind, as to what you did to build these type of relationships where you were able to get direct contracts, being fairly new, because you've only been in the game 3 years, you said, right? 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, 2, 3 years. Well, yeah. 3 years. Yeah, I've been in for 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. So I have gotten a couple of direct opportunities. So like you said, relationships is much key whenever you get into this industry. It's good to honestly get a feel of whatever niche you're in for at least 6 months. Somebody I'm mentoring, that I have mentored, she actually lives in my region and we keep in touch on a daily basis. I actually want to bring her on my podcast eventually to give everybody pretty much a 6-month analysis on what it's like. She drives a van like I do. So I would say get a feel of how everything works. Like you can't just jump in, I'm going to get contracts right now. No, because you have to learn how a system works first before you do that. You have to know what it means to get to a pickup on time, what it means. And this is a saying that I actually made up myself. Everybody does not like their steak cooked the same. Do not assume anything. And believe it or not, I've told some of the dispatchers I work with, I've made the statement to them. Like sometimes I've thrown them off on a lot of things. I'm like, I want to know specific preferences with how they like to do things. Right. So that way in the future, I know exactly how they think, how they talk, how they're going to respond, because I already have an answer for them.
That's right.
I'm already ahead of them. Right. So, and I'm not saying that with ego by any means an egotistical way. I'm saying that because it's like reassurance. So like it's a breath of fresh air that he already knows what to do. Right. He already knows how to communicate with me.
Yes.
And he knows how to do it in an effective way. That's key. Is doing it in a very effective way. So like, let's just say you go on the instructions. All right, call the customer about 30 minutes out. Great, no problem. Call them. Hey, this is Mike with Lumber, Courier, Logistics. I'm 30 minutes out. Where do you want? Where do you want to meet? How do you want this done? Oh, meet me over here. Okay, great. I'll see you then. Plain and simple.
Right.
Done.
Right.
And that's pretty much how it's just based on preferences. So you have to learn overall. What I'm saying here is the whole process: pick up and transit, drop off. Three simple. Once you pretty much nail that down and you learn, I mean, because not every delivery is going to be the same. You might deliver medical, you might deliver
Right.
general freight,
Right.
you might deliver just small parcel boxes. So everything is not the same. Not every single broker, freight forwarder, or let's just say a regular customer, they don't like everything the same. That's why I always treat everything differently. So once you kind of get a feel of different areas of what you're doing, in this, space, you can start to pretty much navigate. And now it's like breathing. It's easy. Now it's pretty much easy.
Yeah.
And one thing that I told a lot of people on how to succeed is talk about it and become it. So always talk about it. I mean, I talk to yourself, talk to your inner community that you trust. That is literally how you become what you want, what your desire is. So like, if you desire to get customers, talk about this every single day. Don't ever stop talking about it. I believe that everybody subconsciously is whatever they talk about is what they are, what they desire, what they become. So like every day in conversations, I always make sure that 90% of the time, the topic is about logistics, nothing else, nothing personal. Everything is always about business. So that way I'm always in the headspace of getting customers. Now, so I've gotten my first customer. So I was actually still in my Honda Civic at the time, and he loved my work ethic. And the courier company that I was working with shared a warehouse with a whole nother final mile company. I don't know if you ever heard of Ed Don. They deliver a lot of the restaurant supplies in Red Robin, Cracker Barrel. Trying to think, Eggs Up Grill. I don't know if you guys in the Southeast are familiar with that restaurant. There's a lot of different restaurants that use this company, and they deliver just simply supplies for kitchens. So he liked how he did things. If he could, this is basically my first direct customer, and he basically said, "Hey, Mike, I can't do this on my route. Do you want to cover this for me?" And he paid me, and that was it. We negotiated, and I started doing stuff for him because he watched how I did things. He liked the conversations we had. He liked how progressive it was. He was an owner operator, but he owned the contract.
Okay.
So pretty much, he would use me for on-demand opportunities. After a while, unfortunately, it kind of hit the fan for him, and he ended up losing the contract. But I don't know if you know in The Bronx Tale, right? I don't know if you know that movie, The Bronx Tale.
Yeah.
So at the end of The Bronx Tale, right, the guy that looked out for what was his name? Was it C? So the main character, the guy that pretty much always looked out for him, he died, right? I mean, he died at the end of the movie. So a buddy of his, he pretty much heard about C. I'll just say C. The hell with it. With C, he said, "Hey, I heard a lot about you, and just like the guy that looked over you, if you need anything, I'm right here." Same thing in this scenario, and back to reality here. So this guy, right, heard a lot about me. This guy said that that T, we'll just say T, right? T was the guy that was giving me those on-demand opportunities through the contract he had. So he said, "Man," and the guy's name was Z. Let's say Z. So Z said, "Hey, man, T told me so much about you, and I want to use you just like he used you. If I ever have an offer, and here's my number, let's work together, just like that." So, and I built trust with him because of conversations we had. Right. And I kid you not, every time I've talked about it, he's like, "Man, once you get your company off the ground, like as far as like having drivers under you, please call me." And we talk about it every time, like possibly, me becoming a broker or just anything like that. So we built trust over time through conversations, through our goals, business goals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he would do the same. Call me, we would negotiate. Sometimes, yeah, we didn't agree on a negotiation because my cost is my cost. mean, I'm sorry,
Right.
sometimes it would work. But overall, I would say those are the two. I'm trying to think if I had any more direct opportunities. No, it's just those two. So right now it was just those two. That unfortunately that contract kind of just it pretty much expired. Because I mean I think it pretty much hit the fan for him. Like those contracts are very temporary. It's very competitive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean I would say overall for me, how you are able to build relationships is trust. And like we talked about earlier, like me, I'm talking about it on a courier capacity.
Right.
Because I'm still getting, like I said, I'm taking everything I've learned the courier lane as far as skill sets. Skills are going to be your number one asset. It's
Right.
always going to be skills over everything. That's gonna be your biggest assets. So if you have the skill set, okay, if you have the skill set to just communicate effectively, because there's a difference there. To just pretty much always be on point with everything and just be focused on whatever offer you're doing. Trying to think of what else here, but that's the key. Honestly, that's how I was able to build those two relationships. Yeah.
That's a good segue into the next part, not to cut you off. You keep chopping up, so I don't know if you can hear me or not. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. That was a great example of the importance of building relationships in this industry. I wanted you to talk a little bit about how are you able to manage the being in the fields and the back office piece. I think that's very important, is understanding operational duties and responsibility and what that looks like as a independent courier person. I know you mentioned that you're getting ready to get your own operational authority. But in the meantime, what does that look like for you? And if you don't mind sharing what some of those numbers look like, how you operate and what your average is monthly that you're bringing in, and how you're just managing, especially with these skyrocket freaking gas prices and insurance steady going up and yeah.
So you said my average, like what I'm bringing in on average is what you're saying, like to mention. Okay. Back office and operations, I am not going to say it is easy, because it is not. It's not easy. It is. So what is easy is to let things pile up. That is very easy to do that. It can be so difficult because as owner operators, our minds are always moving. We're always looking for repositioning ourselves. We're always looking to say, okay, if I end up in this city, where can I go that's going to be profitable? Like that's like, it's just an example here. Like, so we're always thinking of that. We're always thinking of like 2 or 3 other things. And a lot of people tend to neglect back office. A lot of people tend to neglect it because it's just an annoyance. It's like a prick in the side. Like nobody wants to do it. I'm telling you this. And back office is important. Why is back office important? Because you don't know if your registered agent's going to send you something that's important documentation. You don't know if you're going to get a bill in the mail for some reason, business or personal level. It's really important to keep up with your miles. And really to simplify what I'm going to say is your cost per mile. So to keep up with this is why I say this is part of your back office, obviously, is because you got to keep up with your maintenance, how much maintenance you're spending. You got to keep up with your fuel. You got to keep up with the amount of miles you're driving on average. So overall, your miles and your fixed and variable cost is what you got to keep up with on a weekly or daily basis. Me, I do that too much. I just compile everything I have and I add it up at the end of the week. But it's important to do this because overall back office, keeping up with your back office and your cost per mile is pretty much going to tell you whether or not your business is profiting. That's why it's important to keep up with this. If you neglect this, you're just pretty much just running and you have no idea if you're running a profit or a loss. Right. So you want to keep up with this. You really do want to keep up with this so that way you're aware of this.
Right.
you're honestly just super aware of this. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's in your course, your cost per mile is always going to change because why? We have a lot of variable costs and very few fixed costs. Like for me, I have, a van note, I have commercial insurance, I have fuel, I have a couple of, premiums that actually make my business, efficient. Yes, I pay for Chat GBT. I know some people are like controversial about that. I do pay for it.
Right.
But there are a couple things I do, I pay for it. That is a huge pretty much applies to what I'm doing. So I would say what I'm profiting on average right now a month, I would say on a gross level is probably close to 8-9 grand a month. And that is just me like strategizing and using what I call a portfolio, about stocks, bonds, investing, and stuff like that. I treat everything like a portfolio. I do not put my eggs in one basket. That's
right.
why I have carriers, I have couriers, I have apps. Every here and there, I have direct opportunities like I demonstrated. I had two.
Right.
So that's what my eight grand is made up of.
Right.
Is all of those people. So my expenses can be between. So I mean, I would say about my expenses are probably a good 50% of that. Probably a good bit, probably 50% is pretty much like just right off the top of my head, I could say is pretty much like what I'm having to take out for expenses. That's fuel, that's fixed costs, variable costs. I mean, variable, it like I said, pun intended, it varies. So that's why I would say 40-50% of that is going to be expenses. And that is why my next point is your net is going to, ultimately, it's what you're taking home. It's not about your gross, it's about what you're taking home. So, yeah, I mean, I would say on a net level, I'm probably taking about five grand, maybe about 4 or 5 grand. So, because my fixed costs are going to be the same, but the variable goes up and down. Now, the key thing here is, there's two things I'm going to say because, you were asking me earlier about, what I make. I'm like, yeah, there's nothing to hide. But here's the thing that a lot of people don't do. What are you doing with your net in general? What are you doing with that money? Other than when you pay because you have to pay two entities now, your business and yourself. How are you going to do that, right? It's almost like, it's almost like a stay-at-home wife, and it's almost like a husband covering the bills. I'm a single guy, all right? So this is pretty much like my wife here, all right? Like I am pretty much, this is the stay-at-home van. Well, I mean, the van's not stay-at-home, but I'm saying it's like a stay-at-home van, and I'm out working. So I have to figure out how to bring money in to take care of my business, to take care of myself. That is what it's about.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to pay attention to your expenses. It's one thing to pay attention to what you're netting after everything, every single week, because it's always going to change. What are you doing with that? Are you investing that money into a high yield, into a brokerage that is going to compound over time, which in simple terms, it's money working for you? Do you have money put aside in an emergency fund out of that net? What are you doing with that money? So just in case let's just say my net is not 4 to 5. It's for some reason 25 to 3. It's looking critical. I can be like, oh, wow, I have money in my brokerage. Oh, wow, I have an emergency fund. Oh, wow, I have money here. Because I took the time to pay attention to where I'm putting my money. So that way, if my net revenue is lower than usual, I don't panic. I have money put aside in areas, not a dead savings account. Because that to me, we're talking on a general financial advisor here. I would not recommend somebody to put all their money into savings. Absolutely not. It is not growing. It has not been that way since the 1970s when they took the gold standard off the dollar. That is why savings has been dead since then. That is why it's really important that and water. So here, that's the topic is make sure you're smart with your money. That's just the conclusion of that is make sure you're smart with your money. no matter what your net is, no matter what it is. Now, it's one, that's why I always say it's a combination of two things. It's be sure your expenses are as low as possible, and your way of, I guess, your personal
Right.
way of living for it.
Right.
So that's living within your means is what I'm describing.
Yeah.
But because I learned this out of not only Rich Dad Poor Dad, I learned this out of the Financial IQ, which is a follow-up book on that, and the Psychology of Money. Not only do you need to live within your means, no matter what your net looks like, you need to make more money because there's only so much you can do with living within your means. You're going to hit a ceiling. I mean, what are you going to do? Just sell everything, and it's not going to increase your profit. I mean, you're going to take more profit out of what you're currently making, but how much do you have to minimize to do that?
Right.
So you look at it another way. How do I make more money?
Right.
That's where direct opportunities come in. So that's overall what I would say as far as tips and tricks. Paying attention to profit is very important. So that way, is expenses higher? What do I need to cut out? Do I need to find another lane to make more money for my, for whatever vehicle type you have? That's how I kind of look at it overall, I would say, for back office.
Well, that was definitely I loved everything that you said. Man, you are the bomb. You are the blueprint, bro. You are the blueprint. Seriously. Understanding the importance of remaining compliant, the importance of understanding what your living cost is as well, because they are two separate things. Your business and yourself, they should not be combined together. You should not have your business income as your personal income and vice versa. There has to be a separation of the two. And then understanding that in trucking, there will be, it's not if, it's a matter of when there will be that valley, right? There's peaks and valleys. And you need to be prepared for it. And from what you've shared with us, you definitely have that plan. So to kind of wrap it up a little bit, you've given us so many amazing gems. I just see great things for you in the very near future. And I'm excited for where you're going, your hustle, your drive, your willingness to take those losses, learn from it, and not only learn from it, but you come back and you teach everyone else, and you allow your platforms, such as your podcast, for individuals to come on and teach preventative tools that individuals can implement in starting in transportation. I shared this many times before. Trucking is definitely an industry where you can flourish, you can grow, you can redesign who you want to be and who you are going to be. It's felony friendly. It's definitely an opportunity for individuals that need to work from home, that can work from home if you want to be a freight dispatcher. And again, as we discussed earlier about building relationships and just being open. And I think that's what people have to understand in this space, that every arm of trucking is a person that's trying to take care of their family. You don't have to pretend to be something that you're not. I have found in previous experiences that brokers will much rather for you to say, hey, I just got started, I'm still learning, but this is what I could bring to the table, opposed to you saying, oh, I've been driving for 20 years, and they ask you a question and you're stuck, so they much rather for you to say, hey, this is what I got, this is what do you need from me? And you said that earlier, what do you need from me in order to make our working relationship a success? So in closing and bringing it to an end, what are some give me 3 things you wish you would have known before you started your endeavors, and how individuals need to invest in that. I know for me, one is definitely having a consultant or a mentor that will help you avoid some of the bumps in the road. So give me 3 of your top 3 things you wish you would have known, or you wish you would have invested in before you actually jumped out there.
So 3 things. And before I get into that, I really like what you said earlier. Like I admitted to earlier, I don't know everything. I'm learning about the carrier industry because I'm crazy experienced in the courier industry, but I'm still learning about how, carriers work and based on knowledge. So I do, like I said, I agree 100% with that. Like I'm not going to come on here and act like I know everything. I
Right,
don't.
right,
I
right.
don't. All I'm saying is everything I know.
Yeah,
So far. I mean, hell, we might have another segment, and I'm going to come back with even more knowledge based
absolutely.
on the carrier links. I'm still learning how carriers work. I'm still navigating that right now. But 3 things. So I do have to steal yours. Mentor. I did not have a mentor. Yeah, I watched a few people on YouTube before TikTok was a thing on this.
Right,
But I did not have a mentor that I could call up. I had to figure it out.
right,
And I have failed so many times. I have lost a crazy amount of money. I've went to massive debt before
right,
because of money, mismanagement.
right,
So if
right,
I had a mentor, I would have definitely, I would have most definitely avoided a lot of those mistakes.
right,
Number 2 is if I were to go back in time, I would have probably instead of getting the small van, I would have went straight for this. Um, because you want to open the door for yourself for as many opportunities as possible, but you also want to be smart about it at the same time. Um, so just I would say making those initial investments, the smart investments. So just making overall smart investments would be my number 2 because it is so that way you're scalable. You're scalable to anybody you come across. And so that way you get your foot in the door. Like I said, having that LLC, just having your business credential, your LLC, your EIN, having your authority, because like I told you in the very beginning, with your authority, it takes 6 months to a year. So if you wait a whole nother year, I'm not going to get it till next year. Well, then guess what? When you get your authority, you got to wait a whole another 6 months to a year before a broker or shipper even looks your way. So I wish I could have got my authority last year. I wish I could have got incorporated last year. And I wish I could have got this van last year. And I would have been in a way better position than I am now. Last but not least, 3, I would say I wish early on I knew about what I said earlier, just basic financials, is learning about how assets and liabilities work as a business owner. Learning about what a brokerage is, a high yield is, having that emergency fund for your business. Because I feel like that's key. Because like we said earlier, if something happens and you don't make as much as you usually do, or breakdowns for me, I don't know if you follow my page, has been such an inevitable, unfortunately. Um, and I didn't have enough money put aside, and that really crippled me a lot. I had to get myself out of that hole. So having just that emergency fund, having a high yield savings, having a brokerage, just as like something just in case something happens. Keyword just in case your revenue is not as high, a breakdown happens and you're losing a lot of money. You want to have cash flow for your business, in other words, and that's where that brokerage comes in. You want to have money moving while you're sleeping. So overall, for me, like I said, I mean, I would say to go back to the 3 is having a mentor, is getting the right structure and compliance for your business overall as early as possible. Get it as soon as possible ASAP, and making sure your business has that cash flow while you're not moving. And I named a few examples. Having cash flow for your business. So I would say those are my 3.
brilliant, completely brilliant.
Yeah.
Mike, it has been a pleasure of having you on today.
Thank you. Yeah.
The
Glad I came on
information
here.
that you dropped was just mind blowing. And again, I'm just I'm so impressed with you being so knowledgeable and humble, and you being as young as you are. It is definitely refreshing to see that and see your work ethic. It's impeccable. You have no choice but to go up, and understanding that you're going to run into a few hiccups along the way, and you're willing to take on that chance. So I commend you. I give you your flowers now. I'm very, very honored that you came on today. You made while you was making your money, you know, you was out there doing your thing. You said, nope, I'm coming.
Yeah.
Come late, but I'm coming to you. I'm
I'm
going
coming still. Yep.
I'm gonna keep my word. So listen, we
Yeah.
definitely will be doing this part two, because I want
We have
to,
got to. Yeah.
swing back around and see where you are, how many, you've put up underneath your fleet, you put in your fleet within the next couple of months, and just keep
Yeah.
at it, keep at it. Tell the people how they can find you, and for them to follow you on which social media platforms you're on.
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram, you can follow me on TikTok, you can follow me on well, my podcast page is on all three of these platforms. So my podcast is Cargo Cast Podcast. I always shoot it out 3 Fridays out of the month. We're not going to start back up till June 5th because we're taking a break. There's like 5 weeks in the month, but I mean, we're in May, I'm saying. So we're just going to take off the rest of the Fridays. We kind of agreed on the team about that. Yeah, I would say, so just go on my TikTok. It's Cargo Cast Podcast. My individual business page is Cargo Capital 6498. That's on Instagram as well. The podcast is also on Instagram. So TikTok, Instagram. So YouTube, this is something I just started doing. Every Saturday, you're always going to be seeing replays from TikTok Live, because that's where I shoot my podcast. So if you miss the podcast on Friday, you can literally watch the replay on Saturdays. So that's how I just started setting up. Everybody got so excited when I did that. It took me a little while to navigate how it works on YouTube, but I finally figured it out. It took me, I was like, how am I going to do this? I don't have a computer. I just have my phone, but I just stumbled upon the answer. And now I just pretty much am able to download those replays every Saturday. So that way you guys can watch the replays on the podcast every Saturday. So yeah, and you're probably wondering, when does this go live on TikTok? So it's 8 p.m. I'm on the East Coast, so it's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Cargo Cast Podcast. On my TikTok page. So yeah, that's pretty much my social media pages.
All right. Well, Mike, I appreciate you so very much. I
too.
look forward to speaking with you and having you on again in a very
Sure.
near future. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck. Be safe out there on that road, and we'll definitely be doing this again soon. Thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't already done so, please make sure that you share this video. Make sure that you hit the subscribe, and definitely turn on those notifications to be tuned in, and so that you won't miss any of these amazing interviews that are available every Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So thank you all. I appreciate you. I will have his contact information in the in the description section, so that you will be able to accessibly follow him quick, fast, and in a hurry. All right. Thank you. Have a good evening. Good night.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me. Yep.